Have you ever wondered how farmers manage to raise millions of free-range chickens for both eggs and meat while still claiming to maintain ethical standards and top-notch quality? Picture an endless expanse of land dotted with clucking birds, each one roaming freely under the open sky, seemingly carefree. This image might sound like a pleasant utopia, yet the reality behind large-scale free-range chicken farming is far more layered than it appears. From whispers about hidden shortcuts to debates over what free range even means, the story of chicken farming at this scale is full of intrigue. Despite all the talk, one thing is clear: free-range chicken products are more popular than ever. Consumers flock to them, believing they're healthier, more humane, and better for the environment. But is that always the case? Whether you're curious about how these massive operations come together, or you're just fascinated by the rumors surrounding them, you're in the right place. Today, we're venturing into the often misunderstood realm of large-scale free-range chicken farming. We'll explore how this industry grew into a giant, how these farms are structured, what kind of feeding strategies they employ, and why controversies keep swirling around them. So, if you've ever wanted to know how eggs labeled free range end up in your refrigerator and why some folks are casting doubt on these labels, keep watching. This story might just change how you view that carton of eggs in the grocery aisle and how you think about the chicken on your dinner plate. But before we dive into the details, let's unravel where this demand for free range really came from. Because the tide shifted so quickly that many people didn't even notice how or why free range soared to the top of the market. In the past, poultry farming often evoked images of cramped conditions and questionable practices. Over time, more consumers started to question the ethics and quality behind the food on their plates. Words like organic, cage-free, and free-range began to appear on labels, sparking an entire movement that demanded higher welfare standards for animals. Among these terms, free-range stood out because it painted a vivid picture of chickens roaming in grassy fields, living a happier and more natural life. But not everyone could agree on what free range truly meant. In one country, free range might require a certain number of square feet per bird, while somewhere else it might require only limited outdoor access. Critics have often pointed out that some so-called free-range operations only offer chickens a tiny door to the outside, leaving it unclear how much they actually venture out. Still, the reason free-range became so wildly popular is that it tapped into multiple desires at once. People wanted better taste, higher nutritional value, more humane farming, and a smaller environmental footprint. Free-range labels seemed to promise all that. Claims started circulating that free-range meat and eggs contained more omega-3 fatty acids and tasted significantly better. Some folks even swore they could instantly taste the difference in a free-range egg compared to a conventional one. The public's appetite for these products exploded. Restaurants began boasting free-range chicken on their menus. Grocery stores made more shelf space, and new farmers jumped on the bandwagon. In a matter of years, what was once a specialty niche market became a booming industry. Demand soared to the point that enormous free-range facilities, some housing millions of birds, started cropping up worldwide. But whenever an industry grows rapidly, there's bound to be debate. Certain critics claim that these mega free-range farms weren't following the spirit of free-range. Rumors swirled about misleading packaging, and some believe that just because a label says free-range doesn't mean the chickens actually spent all day outside. As we continue, we'll see that building a legitimate free-range operation on such a scale is no easy feat. It requires not just land and infrastructure, but also careful planning, rigorous health protocols, and sometimes advanced technology. Yet the basics remain the same no matter how big you go. Chickens need adequate living space, outdoor access, proper feed, and a stress-free environment. Balancing that with the push for profit is where things get complicated. When people imagine free-range chickens, they might think of a quaint family farm with a red barn in the background. Now picture that same concept multiplied by thousands of acres, with countless birds clucking about. Managing an operation like this is no small task. The land itself must be carefully prepared. Fenced-off areas to keep predators out, shaded spots for chickens to rest, and barn-like structures where they can roost, lay eggs, and seek shelter from bad weather. One of the biggest challenges is ensuring each chicken has room to roam. Various regulations around the world impose minimum space requirements, but scaling that up to millions of birds can require a staggering amount of land. This leads some critics to question whether some farms are bending the rules. How can so many chickens truly roam freely without competing for space? Another factor is how you keep predators at bay. Large-scale free-range farms often face problems with foxes, hawks, or other creatures that see chickens as an easy meal. Fences may help, but high fencing or netting can be incredibly expensive and may diminish the very concept of free range. Some farms use trained dogs or other guard animals to help keep threats at a distance. Others rely on advanced alarm systems that detect motion or unusual activity in the fields. Infrastructure costs can skyrocket. Building large barns, installing proper ventilation systems, and equipping the farms with feeders and waterers is already expensive. Then there's the land itself. Often farmland must be rotated or rejuvenated if thousands of chickens are pecking and scratching on it year-round. Critics point out that the high price of real estate in some regions pushes farms to buy cheaper land with less ideal conditions. Rumors have floated that some operators take shortcuts on land quality, leading to overcrowding in certain sections. Inside the coops, farmers must place roosting bars at comfortable heights, provide nesting boxes for egg laying, and ensure enough space for each bird. Even if the birds roam outside during the day, they'll come inside at night or during inclement weather. If the coops are too small, chickens end up huddling and competing for limited resources, negating the whole point of free range. Plus, large-scale farms need to manage waste properly. Chicken droppings can accumulate quickly, creating ammonia buildup that affects both the bird's health and the surrounding environment. Handling this on a massive scale requires either frequent cleanouts or sophisticated waste processing systems. Some operations even invest in composting setups that convert waste into fertilizer for crops. These massive infrastructures might look impressive, but they also breed skepticism. Can farmers truly monitor the well-being of each individual chicken when they're managing millions of them? Is it possible that the free-range label masks conditions that are only marginally better than conventional systems? The rumor mill never stops churning, and it doesn't help that some insiders refuse to disclose how often chickens actually go outdoors. But even with the best infrastructure in place, a successful free-range operation needs more than just land and barns. It demands careful feeding and nutrition strategies, which brings us to our next section. Feeding millions of free-range chickens is a delicate balancing act. On the one hand, the entire point of free-range is to allow birds to forage naturally, Chickens love pecking at insects, seeds, grass, and anything they might unearth in the soil. This natural foraging behavior not only keeps them active and less stressed, but also can improve the quality of their eggs and meat. Studies suggest that free-range chickens often have richer, more deeply colored egg yolks and a unique flavor profile in their meat, attributes that many consumers find appealing. However, purely natural foraging isn't enough to sustain these birds on a large scale. Free-range chickens still require a supplementary feed, typically a formulated mix of grains, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. This ensures each bird meets its nutritional needs, maintains good health, and produces eggs or meat at a commercially viable rate. Balancing the two feeding approaches, letting them forage while also offering high-quality feed, is key to a successful operation. Here's where the controversies begin to bubble up again. Accusations have surfaced suggesting that some large free-range farms rely heavily on antibiotics or growth enhancers to keep pace with production demands. The official stance might be that such substances are only used to treat sick birds, but skeptics worry about overuse. They point to potential antibiotic resistance and question the real difference between free-range and conventional if large-scale free-range farms use similar medication practices. Farm managers counter that healthy birds allowed to roam outdoors are actually less stressed than caged ones, and thus may require fewer drugs. They say the main issue is disease prevention, since a single outbreak in a huge flock can spread faster than you might think. Critics respond that offering enough land per bird and rotating flocks through different pastures can mitigate disease, though that approach is more expensive and labor-intensive. Feeding technology has also become more advanced. Automated feeding lines can ensure each bird gets the right portion of feed throughout the day, reducing waste. Coupled with water lines that provide clean drinking water, these systems allow farmers to scale up like never before. But again, some argue that an operation serving millions of birds might be too big to maintain the hands-on, personalized care that true free-range farming implies. Keeping the birds healthy is paramount, not just ethically, but for profitability. If disease strikes, it could devastate an entire operation. And that kind of risk only multiplies when you have millions of chickens in one place. So many eyes then turn to innovative technologies that promise to keep these colossal flocks in check. Let's dive deeper into that world of high-tech farming, where sensors and automated systems are reshaping the very idea of free range. Modern free-range farms look nothing like the farms of the past. Stroll through one of these futuristic facilities and you might see digital sensors that track everything from a flock's temperature to how many steps each bird takes. Automated systems distribute feed at scheduled intervals. Climate control units adjust the barn's ventilation, ensuring the air stays fresh. Some facilities even employ mechanized nest boxes, which gently roll eggs onto conveyor belts to a collection point, minimizing human handling. Proponents of these high-tech systems say they free farmers from mundane tasks, allowing them to focus on the bird's health and welfare. But naysayers contend that technology removes the personal touch and can mask underlying issues. For instance, an automated system might indicate that feed levels are correct on paper, but it can't always tell if a group of chickens isn't accessing the feed properly because they're bullied by more dominant birds. Despite these concerns, technology certainly has upsides. By monitoring data in real time, farmers can respond more quickly to sudden drops in egg production, spikes in water consumption, or changes in temperature. Automated lighting systems mimic sunrise and sunset indoors, helping regulate chickens' laying cycles. Drones and cameras can keep tabs on large fields to check for hazards or wandering flocks. But there's an undeniable irony here. One reason people champion free range is because it's supposed to be more natural. Once you introduce too much technology, some critics argue, you inch closer to the systematic approach found in intensive factory farms. Rumors swirl that certain large operations maintain the free range name mainly for marketing, while in practice, the chicken's natural behaviors are overshadowed by mechanical processes. Of course, technology has also facilitated breakthroughs in disease control. Sensors can detect subtle changes in a bird's movement or feeding habits before illness spreads. Automated gates can open at certain times of day, encouraging the flock to go outside and roam. This might be the best of both worlds, where technology ensures each chicken actually goes outdoors, rather than letting them stay cramped in a barn. Yet the larger an operation gets, the more challenging it becomes to verify that every bird is living the idyllic free-range lifestyle. This brings us to the heart of the matter, the hidden challenges and controversies that many farms prefer to keep under wraps. Raising millions of birds, free range or not, comes with inherent challenges. Disease is one of the biggest threats. All it takes is one infected chicken for an illness to spread quickly throughout a flock. Farmers must strike a delicate balance. Provide open, outdoor areas that could also expose birds to wild animals carrying disease. If an outbreak occurs, quarantining or treating so many birds becomes a logistical nightmare. Then there's the environmental impact. Free-range birds can do a number on the land, stripping grass and vegetation if the fields aren't managed carefully. This could lead to soil erosion and nutrient runoff, which might contaminate nearby water sources. Critics say that while free-range farms look better on the surface, the high density of birds may cause more harm than good if land isn't properly rotated or if the flock isn't managed in separate sections. Another hot issue is the authenticity of the free-range label. Some countries have more stringent regulations than others. In places where the rules are lax, a farmer might only need to provide an open door for a few hours a day to call their operation free range. Whether or not the birds actually use that door to roam outdoors can vary. Consumers, meanwhile, see a label and assume it guarantees a certain level of welfare. Accusations surfaced that certain big brands stretch the rules to meet the bare minimum requirements while splashing free range across their marketing materials. Moreover, the poultry industry has been rumored to wield its influence to keep certain controversies under wraps. For instance, if a massive free-range farm faces a lawsuit or a scandal, it might settle privately, leaving consumers unaware of any wrongdoing. Journalists and activists occasionally attempt to expose poor conditions, but large corporations sometimes push back aggressively, claiming these cases are outliers that don't reflect the norm. These controversies underscore the complexities of labeling and consumer trust. It's not enough to rely solely on a term like free range to gauge a farm's practices. Many conscientious farmers do go above and beyond, ensuring their flocks roam truly open fields and live low-stress lives. But with millions of birds, the line between genuine free range and something else can become blurred. Amid all these challenges, one question looms. If farming millions of free-range chickens is so difficult and expensive, how do these operations stay profitable? The answer lies in a combination of diverse revenue streams, strategic partnerships, and industry secrets that might surprise you. Despite the potential difficulties, free-range chicken farming can be hugely profitable, particularly when you're dealing with millions of birds. First, there's the obvious revenue from eggs and meat. Consumers are willing to pay more for free-range products because they believe they're buying superior quality, enhanced nutrition, or more humane treatment. That premium can add up quickly when you're producing a high volume. Secondly, some farms diversify. They might sell manure as fertilizer or partner with other farmers who need natural soil amendments. They might branch out into related products like organic feed or specialized breeding programs. Large-scale farms often strike deals with grocery chains and restaurant suppliers, securing steady income. Some also open their doors for agritourism, charging visitors to see the happy chickens roaming around, further boosting their brand image. Yet, behind the scenes, rumors about corporate involvement persist. Some people claim that major food conglomerates quietly invest in these family-owned free-range farms, supplying them with technology and marketing support in exchange for a share of the profits. This arrangement allows big corporations to appear as though they support small-scale farmers while actually controlling large swaths of the market. There are also stories of smaller free-range farms struggling to compete. They don't have the capital to invest in the same level of automation or infrastructure. As a result, their birds might genuinely roam more, but they produce fewer eggs and meat at a higher cost. Meanwhile, giant free-range operations enjoy economies of scale, churning out products more cheaply. In the end, some fear the market will increasingly be dominated by a handful of mega free-range farms, crowding out truly small, artisanal operations. Perhaps the biggest secret of all is the razor-thin line these large farms walk between conventional and free-range practices. A free-range operation might convert sections of its farm back to indoor only during certain times of the year, quietly blending the two systems. If the labeling regulations are lenient or poorly enforced, consumers might never know the difference. Nevertheless, the demand for free range isn't disappearing anytime soon. In fact, it's likely to grow. More people than ever question the ethics of industrial farming, and many are willing to pay extra for what they believe to be a cleaner, more humane product. Whether large-scale free-range operations will continue to meet those expectations is an ongoing debate. At this point, we've seen how large-scale free-range farms are built, how they feed and manage their birds, and how controversies and profit motives intersect. The story of raising millions of chickens on open land is as complicated as it is fascinating. So where does that leave you, the curious consumer or budding farmer? Let's draw everything together and see what we can learn from this epic tale of modern poultry farming. All in all, the concept of free-range chicken farming captivates people because it promises a more natural, ethical approach to raising one of the world's most popular protein sources. On paper, letting birds roam outdoors and forage in the fresh air sounds perfect. In practice, scaling this idea to millions of chickens is a monumental task, filled with infrastructure challenges, high-tech solutions, environmental concerns, and persistent rumors about how free these chickens actually are. For farmers, the free-range model can offer substantial financial rewards. Consumers pay a premium for what they believe to be better living conditions and improved flavor. Technology steps in to streamline operations, boosting output, and maintaining a semblance of control over vast flocks. But technology also raises questions about how close these farms are drifting toward the very factory farming methods free-range was supposed to avoid. On the consumer side, many are left wondering how to tell the difference between a genuinely free-range product and one that's merely labeled that way. Regulations vary, and not all are strictly enforced. Plus, as the poultry industry becomes more profitable, large corporations may shape the market from behind the scenes, blurring the lines between small-scale ethical farming and big business interests. So, if you're looking to support truly humane and sustainable farming, the first step is to look beyond the label. Ask questions about how the chickens live, how much space they have, and whether they truly roam outdoors or merely have access to a confined patch. Seek out transparency from the brands you buy. If you're an aspiring farmer, be prepared for the steep costs and challenges of meeting legitimate free-range standards, especially if you plan to manage more than just a handful of birds. Ultimately, free-range chicken farming can be an incredible way to produce both eggs and meat. It has the potential to benefit animal welfare, the environment, and local economies if done responsibly. Yet, as with any profitable endeavor, there are always those looking to cut corners. Real free-range farming demands commitment and accountability. It's up to both farmers and consumers to ensure the ideals of free-range don't get lost in the quest for bigger profits. Whether you're planning to start your own flock or just want to make informed decisions at the grocery store, remember that the story of raising millions of free-range chickens is still being written. People around the world are continually experimenting with new methods to balance profitability, ethics, and environmental stewardship. Perhaps the free-range model will keep evolving, fueled by consumer demand and farming innovations. Or maybe it will hit a wall if we discover that scaling up indefinitely isn't sustainable. For now, the question remains: is it possible to preserve the integrity of free-range farming when millions of birds are involved, or does going big inevitably mean compromising the very principles that made free-range popular in the first place? One thing's for sure, this conversation won't be ending anytime soon. The more we learn about how our food is produced, the more complex the issues become, and the more each of us has to decide what matters most in the journey from farm to plate. Keep these questions in mind the next time you crack open an egg or bite into a chicken sandwich, because behind every carton and drumstick is a story of land, labor, technology, and possibly a bit of controversy. Thank you for sticking around until the end. Hopefully you've gained a clearer perspective on how these massive free-range operations function and the debates that shape them. Whatever your stance, there's no denying the undeniable impact that free-range farming has had on the modern poultry landscape. And as more consumers continue to ask tough questions, only time will tell how this industry will adapt, thrive, or possibly transform once again.